For more on this latest setback in Gaza peace talks, we're joined by Michele Dunne. She's Senior Associate of the Middle East Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace here in Washington, D.C. Well, once again, we've seen another apparent step backwards in the peace talks. Are both sides still pretty much hung up on the same issues, would you say?
We've seen a little bit of information leaking out from the talks in Cairo about what the hangup might be. What we see from the Palestinian side is that they're pressing for some significant opening up of Gaza. For example, opening of the Gaza seaport. Not that that would necessarily be done immediately, but they're pressing for some sort of timeline, like that would be discussed, for example, 1 month after the ceasefire actually took hold, whereas the Israelis apparently are unwilling to agree to that. From the Israeli side, they seem to have given up on their initial goal of complete demilitarization of Gaza, but they're still pressing for something, some kind of for example, international task force or something to be established in order to prevent more weapons and construction materials that could be used to build weapons getting into Gaza in the future.
Is there room for compromise? I mean, it seems like we keep lurching in one direction and then the other. It seems like 1 minute where people are encouraged, it looks like maybe there's a long-term deal, and then before you know it, things collapse again.
It will probably not be a long-term deal. There will probably be some set of arrangements that will be short-term, and if it's like previous agreements, many of them will not actually be implemented in the end. But both sides, both the Israelis and Hamas, need to show that the sacrifices that they made were somehow worth it, that they got something out of it. So it's important to them, at least at the time that the ceasefire arrangement is announced, that it looks as though they accomplished something.
It's interesting. I was reading a couple of articles about how some of the international players really aren't sticking to the script. The Egyptian president broke from past traditions of Mubarak and Morsi and how he's handling things. U.S. government just this week delaying a shipment of Hellfire missiles to Israel, which is kind of a departure as well. Can outside players change the dynamics at all?
Outside players can play a bridging role once the two parties themselves are ready to reach an agreement. But the whole region is in a period of change, of flux, and a very strong polarization. And that has clearly made it more difficult to reach a ceasefire this time than it was in previous conflicts between Israel and Hamas. The fact that you have Egypt and Saudi Arabia and certain players on one side, and Qatar and Turkey on another, and pulling Hamas and the Palestinian players in different directions, that has been very problematic.
What about the United Nations or other nations getting involved? I mean, is there a role to play for the world body, or should other nations be more involved in the process?
In terms of the United Nations, they have volunteered to play a role in various ways, but right now there are strong objections in Israel. There's a feeling in Israel that United Nations bodies tend to be very critical of Israel. For example, the establishment of a commission to look into possible war crimes during this conflict. So Israel is going to be resistant to the UN playing a major role, and Israel will want the United States, its major ally, to play a more prominent role.
All right, Michele Dunne, with your observations on this ongoing peace process, I'm sure we'll be checking in with you again. Doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.